Welcome to the School of Martial Arts. Welcome to the meditation talk tonight. My name's Miss Macy, and tonight I'm talking. If you want to move over here, you don't have to like crane your neck or too much. Totally fine. And the topic of tonight's meditation talk is the illusion of age. So the question of the week this week is, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? It's a good question, right? How old do you feel like you'll be? And it's really interesting. I think it evolves as we change in age. When we start when we're very, very young, we tend to want to be older than we are because, I don't know why there's more people, you just think that life is better when you're older somehow because you know more, you've learned more, you have more skills, all those good things. I'm talking about when you're children. You know, it's like you're always going to look up to an older brother or an older sister or an older cousin or an older, somebody in the neighborhood who's just a little bit older than you because they seem to be able to do things so much better than you. You want to be able to do well with them, right? Do as well as them. And then as you get older, you start to appreciate when people think you're younger, which is always a fun thing. And you're like, I've still got the youth of ages. I will never forget the time when I forget exactly how old I was. I was either 39 or 40. So that was pretty, that kind of age. And I got asked for my ID when I was buying alcohol. I was like, yes! That's super awesome. But, so that whole reflection of age is like really interesting. It's like, how do we feel inside? How do we act? How do we behave out in life? What do we look like on our face? What does drinking really well and eating really well and exercising throughout our lives, what does that do to our face, right? And it's really interesting, the perception of how old people think you are. I'm a terrible guesser at people's ages. I'm really horrible at it. So I don't ever try to guess anybody's age. But it's really interesting how we think about ourselves. And I was doing a little bit of Google research this afternoon, and I came across one article that said that as we age, we often think of ourselves as younger, and it's usually from a time when things were going really well in our lives, like we felt really good about our lives, and things were just like humming, like everything was just awesome. Or we can actually be stuck in a younger age because of a trauma or something else that happened in our lives that like really caused us to stop developing and growing at that time because there was so much trauma and distress that happened for us. So that's a really interesting part too, and I am lucky I haven't experienced that, but it's interesting that can also be a reason why we might feel younger than we actually are. So it's a really fascinating thing. And I've been thinking about this week, and this talk is going to be really short, that's okay. One of the things I was thinking about was, well, actually, aren't ourselves, our atoms, billions of years old? Aren't we billions of years old? Aren't we billions of years old? It's really super, super interesting. I brought some facts because I was fascinated by this. So I'm calling this our atomic age. Like, what's our atomic age, right? So the Big Bang happened about 13.8 billion years ago, something like that. And our galaxy got formed, they say, about 13.6 billion years ago, something like that. And our sun was born 4.6 billion years ago. So all of those billions of years, it's like billions and billions of years ago, and the hydrogen atoms come from the Big Bang. Like that's when all the hydrogen atoms were formed, apparently. The carbon, the nitrogen, and the oxygen comes from burning stars. So whenever the stars burned, they combined atoms of hydrogen so that they were, they combined to form these bigger atoms. And then any heavy metal comes from exploding stars, which is pretty cool, right? It's pretty awesome. And the thought that like all of the atoms that were created in the universe, and whether you believe in the Big Bang or not, this is the theory, all of the atoms that were created in the universe were created then, and then they've only just been like combining and just mixing since then. So we are really, any of the hydrogen that we have inside of us, which we have a lot because we're, 70 to 80% water, something like that, they say, right? And that's a hydrogen atom and 2 oxygen atoms. So all of that hydrogen that's within us, which is, I'm going to guess, maybe a quarter of us, something like that, all of that hydrogen came from the Big Bang, which is pretty incredible when you think about it, pretty incredible. And then I found this other super cool thing as well. It's like, how many atoms do we have in common with each other? Which is also a really interesting thought. It's like one big breath exhaled, and I didn't write down the number. I really should have written down the number. It was some billion amounts of atoms, like a big breath exhaled, is enough atoms for throughout a whole year, because of the mixing of the environment and the air and the water and all the rest of it, is for, on average, for one atom to be in every single person in the world in a year. So when I exhale, you all get an atom, and everybody else in the world gets an atom within a year of that breath that I exhaled, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's a pretty amazing thought to have, that we are so interconnected through our breath, even, through just the shared atoms that we share all the time. It's like we always, in Zen and meditation circles, people always talk about being one with everybody. Well, here we are, I shared a breath with you. I shared a breath with you just by the physicality of being in this building together for the last hour or 2 hours or however long you've been in here. We for sure shared some atoms at some point in time, which some people might find gross, but I find pretty fascinating. That's why viruses spread and stuff, right? That it's such an interesting thought to be not just part of the common humanity as human beings, in that we can only be as old as we are or feel as old as we are, not only to be part of that common humanity, to have that experience happen similarly, but also to have our ancient atoms bringing us information, and who knows how they interact, like on that atomic level with the energy in there. Who knows how my energy affects the hydrogen atoms that are in my body, and then when I expel them, how are they delivered to you, and vice versa back to me, right? So it's a really fascinating thought, I think, to take the intersectionality of everybody and how we're breathing and how we're allowing into our lives the universe, how we're allowing into our lives the Big Bang, and how we're allowing into our lives just the force and the energy from thousands and millions of other people because of the mixing that's happened in the world. So I'm going to allow you to sit with that. We're going to do a relatively short, we're going to end early tonight, I can tell, but we're going to sit for a short meditation for about 15 minutes or so and just contemplate, where have your atoms come from? Where are they going to? And how will you interact with your atoms while they're in your body? Right. Thank you. We're ending with that. It's so early, it's still light outside. Wow. Oops. So when you sit to meditate, you're going to sit comfortably, knees below your hips if you can, so you don't end up with your feet falling asleep. You can just rest your hands comfortably, either on your thighs or in the fold of your hips. If you need to turn those zafu cushions up on your side to sit on them, you can do that too. We're going to close our eyes, spine straight, chin parallel to the floor. Allow all the breath out. Breathe in some atoms. Hold. Exhale atoms. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And out. End with a double exhale. Allow the breath to come in naturally and leave your body naturally. No forcing, no changing. Be an observer of the breath. Be an observer of all the atoms entering and leaving your body. Interconnecting with the people here in this room, and later on throughout the rest of the world, throughout the entire world, with every single human, every single animal, taking the breath of dinosaurs, and delivering it back out into the world. Exchanging three 13.8 billion years old. And be here now.